The woke access media is celebrating. They've conquered. Get out the confetti, because they believe that forever they've reset Hollywood, and now they can convince studios woke is back, baby, and woke goes broke. Well, that's a dead narrative. Today, we'll tell you why some conservatives are walking straight into a trap, the mainstream middle, the sensible center, demanding the Odyssey be changed. But now, their leaders in the commentator punditry class may have just gone deranged. It's a fantastic, phenomenal kind of day, ladies and gentlemen, and you're just the kind of person we're trying to reach out to with the truth, capital T. A great conversation on the way about the Odyssey and what it is and what it means to the woke movement. They believe they've got a huge victory, and we should pay attention to that. Folks, click the like button. We'll explain what's really going on. The stakes are high, and we never tire of delivering the truth to the fake news media. The Odyssey just might be Hollywood's Trojan horse that's tricking conservatives and centrists into stepping in line with them, and they're having a great time. They think they've defeated you. Did you not like Ghostbusters 2016? Did you despise The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker? Well, let me tell you, Hollywood thinks they've figured out the formula to tricking you into going and seeing their stuff. Wired is taking a pell-mell parade. John Simley says the Odyssey backlash failed tremendously. You all know about the backlash, right? You remember the ratios, the 10-to-1 negative thumbs downs? It says, for all the hysteria over woke casting and ahistorical choices, Christopher Nolan's epic is on track to make $200 million globally. During its opening weekend, it made $250, $260, by the way. Outdid even what Wired thought. We called it, though. We said it was going to have a huge weekend. We told you the whole way. None of this surprises us. What might be surprising to me is how badly some of our buddies are being tricked. But don't think for a moment that the woke media is missing what's happening. They're excited. Them.us says from Quispe Lopez. Go woke, go broke. The Odyssey sails to massive opening weekend despite racist, transphobic backlash. The anti-DEI crowd claimed the casting of Elliot Page and Lupita Nyong'o would sink the film. And now they're celebrating. They're saying, no, that didn't happen, see. Now, you all know, and by the way, look at the names they're calling you. Look at the names they're calling the mainstream out there, okay? Folks, they want you to believe what I have been trying to tell you to see, and that is, don't be deceived by this. This film, the tickets are 50% higher. If you were to take the 50% away, what do we figure out? This thing opens to like 89 million domestically, right? 100 million internationally. That's fine. That's great. That's good. But it's not what we're seeing here. And can it sustain that? I don't know. But the other side is celebrating. They are so freaking excited that they seemingly have defeated their critics. Finally, after a decade, they've defeated you. Matt Walsh says this. Says, I have not seen the Odyssey yet, so I can't give my final verdict on it. All I will say is that these, quote, actually the movie isn't woke, unquote, takes from conservatives strike me as implausible. And this is really interesting to me because Matt Walsh is going out on a ledge here. Remember, his boss, Ben Shapiro, loves the film. He says, casting a self-mutilatified person identifying as female as a male warrior is one of the wokest things any mainstream film director has ever done in a movie. By any objective measure, it's hard to imagine any context that could somehow make that choice not woke. Okay, just reporting here, folks, just telling you what we're seeing out there. By the way, he did see it. He said, just saw the Odyssey. Despite what you may have heard, literally all of the criticisms by conservatives were entirely correct. You can go read it and see what he has to say, but he's basically saying, hey, this is a huge problem. And here's what I've said. He says, but even worse than that is Nolan's decision to turn Odysseus into an anachronistic, whiny, solemn shell of a man plagued by trauma and guilt. Because he's the bad guy. But I want you to see this fight that's going on right now. Kyle Becker says, those who are raving about this film as some kind of broadside against conservatives need to make it clear if the Odyssey is a great film or propaganda. It cannot be both. I kind of agree with that, eh? Mm-hmm. You got Vanity Fair saying the Odyssey's epic box office haul breaks the go woke, go broke myth. This is what they believe. This is the narrative that's coming out of this. Nick Gillespie says before the Odyssey came out, conservatives were crapping the bed over a Black Helen of Troy and the presence of the artist formerly known as Page. Now they are falling all over themselves, praising its conservative values. And why, folks? Why are they doing that? Because they see this big number and they don't know that the ticket sales, the butts and seats, don't match this big number. I mean, it does, but it's because it's being driven by IMAX. And we don't know if it's going to get to the numbers that it needs to even break even. We don't know that yet. And yet, the influencer crowd, they are such a bunch of ninnies. Now, I'm not saying Ben Shapiro is this way, but some of these people are such, like, they will go where the wind blows. Whatever they are told to say, whatever they think their audience needs, they want to be on the popular side. And so they are freaking out and they're jumping to a side that might not be what they think it is. You need to understand what the other side's saying. Gary, I want to get you in on this. Art Tavana says, conservatives are too busy being racist about the Odyssey to focus on Moana, and it is still, by all accounts, one of the worst reviewed Disney live-action flops of all time. Basically, listen, the other side is laughing at the people in the middle and the people on the right. They're laughing at them. They're laughing at the folks like us who say mainstream, middle, sensible center, Gary, because they think they've got to win. Gary, I wonder what are your thoughts about the contentiousness about this film and some on the right not realizing what this film means to the left. And it seems like this is a Trojan horse. It's a trap. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that could be. I mean, just basic numbers. We're at what, 264 right now. So what is that? 51% of that is going back to the studio. How much do they have to clear to make to break even on this? What, 700 million?
750 is what they need to break even. And we're including the knowledge that half of it will go back to Uncle Sam in the theaters. So 750 is what they need. It's a 3X they have to get. And Gary, the difficulty in this, and they could do it, right? But remember, they don't just want to break even. They want to get an ROI that is more than the market. Otherwise, you just should have dumped all this money in a mutual fund somewhere. But Gary, the difficulty they have is they're going up against Spider-Man in 2 weeks. That's the challenge here.
Yeah, I think they're celebrating a little too early, but that's what they do. If this movie was fantastic and wonderful, I would love that. And I would, say that I thought that it was. I haven't seen it yet, and I am not looking forward to seeing it. I'm going to have to. But yeah, I'm certainly not going to, I'll just tell it. I'll tell it like it is. So you're saying there's people out there that are backpedaling on what they said about the movie because they think that the movie is doing better just because of these kind of like propaganda articles that they're putting out.
That is exactly right. What I think is happening here is I think that some, not all, but a significant portion of the conservative commentators, one, when a Ben Shapiro or a Jonathan Pajot, when they come out and they say, I liked it, that opens the door for these other conservative commentators to say, oh, maybe I need to like it too.
Yeah.
Because they don't actually say things they believe. And then when they see the numbers from the box office, I believe if they could easily see that it flopped, they'd be hammering it right now. Right. Gary, I think we are seeing yet again that the commentator class is insufficient for the moment. They go where the wind blows and they don't actually have thoughts of their own.
Yeah, that's low. Yeah, that's disappointing that they're doing that because this movie sounds like the wokest thing ever made. I really, the casting alone is just, it's making me dread wanting to go to this movie. And you guys all telling me that it was boring and almost 3 hours long. I'm really not looking forward to it, but wow. Yeah. What a Trojan horse of a movie.
There you go. Andy, your thoughts on the battle right now and conservatives seemingly, especially the top, not understanding the left is throwing the confetti right now. They're so excited. They see this as a momentous achievement for their side. The right doesn't seem to be understanding the psychological part of this.
I think it's actually a good thing because it shows that side doesn't have a hive mind. There's a lot of disagreement. Like you got Dave Rubin who enjoyed it. You have Ben Shapiro who says he enjoyed it, and like it's people will disagree on this. I mean, I look at things like Nolan can't. I think it's doing so well because it's a Nolan film. People will go see Nolan because Nolan's got a good track record of doing good films, taking chances and making something interesting with it. However, I think he's a bit of a hypocrite when he says things like he wanted authenticity and he wanted all this when, you get the very diverse group of Greeks, which, people didn't get around as much as they do these days. And what travel and environmental things were diseases, things like that, were very hard to get people traveling and being able to exist in a different part of the world because you weren't used to the things that were there. 30,000 years ago, the world was just not like this, but like, oh, now I think that Nolan just did this for Oscar worthiness. And people can say, yeah, he's already won an Oscar. People in Hollywood, there's no such thing as too much fame and too much money. There's no such thing as like, oh, I've got enough, I'm going to just step off to the side now. If that were the case, then Spielberg wouldn't have done Disclosure Day trying to go back to the well again. There's too much of this stuff inside there for any other reason to just get another Oscar for him, because he hit all the boxes that you have to tick to qualify for the boxes. I mean, watching Elliot Page run in that armor through sand looked like a toddler, like, on the beach with his little pail and shovel. Like it completely takes you out of it. Like I said earlier with the Matt Damon not knowing how to shoot a bow and arrow. These are things that you should do if you want to make a movie like this. And he's, went out of his way. He didn't do it with Dunkirk. He made Dunkirk look pretty much authentic, the way Dunkirk should have looked during World War II. But this is a different story. So I think that there's some sleight of hand going on here. Now, you look at the other movies that have done so well with IMAX theaters like Avatar. But we know that Avatar made so much money because people were so enthralled with the spectacle of it, they were willing to go back multiple times to see that on the big screen. I don't think that this is going to, I could be wrong, I don't think this is going to have those kind of legs where people are willing to go spend $25 a ticket to go see a 3-hour-long movie they've already seen.
I think it's going to have a huge Monday. I think it's going to have a huge Tuesday. The Monday and the Tuesday are because this is primarily seen as an event film on IMAX, and IMAX seating is limited. So the people who, there are lots of people who still couldn't get into an IMAX, and they're working to do that. The second weekend is going to matter more than any other movie that I can remember, because it's going to decide how many PLFs it gets in the third weekend with Spider-Man. And in order for this film to break even and top the $750 million, it's going to have to take on Spider-Man and be just fine. And Spider-Man is going to be a juggernaut. Now, Lauren, I'd like to ask you about this. We've got the thing up here, Fox News review. Ignore the woke rumors. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey is a must-see. Isn't it interesting that Fox is telling you that? Ignore the woke rumors. Emerald Apple says The Odyssey has to succeed according to the powers that be. Even many conservatives are now heavily pushing the movie. And it goes on to talk about the things that they disagree with, the race swaps, gender swaps, etc. The things that we've traditionally said, hey, this is a problem, especially when it's at large and part of a broader context. But Lauren, what's fascinating to me is I think this is going to be used by the woke. It's actually insufficient when I say the right and left on this, because I don't think that postmodern neo-Marxists, the woke, are part of the left. I think there's something completely different, and they should be the enemy, I think, of conservatives and classical liberals. The woke right now, Lauren, they're going to take this as the evidence to pitch to Hollywood. It's okay. You can Ghostbusters 2016 again. These critics of yours, they have no power. That's what they're going to do. They're going to use this film to pitch that. And they're doing it off the idea that this is a cultural phenomenon, when in fact, we're just looking at crazy movie prices for this. And folks who love Christopher Nolan movies go in the first few days and saying, I'll pay $25 to see it in the best format possible. The story isn't written yet, Lauren, but already I think the conservatives are falling for this, where they're being part of a movement that's going to try to hijack Hollywood again. Your thoughts?
So I think that's what they're going to try to do. I think that's why they're writing all of those stories right now, is they're trying to create momentum to keep the ticket sales up through the second weekend. And we don't know what story is going to be written. We don't know what kind of legs this movie is going to have yet. But part of the reason that you're getting these conservative commentators and these conservative writers that are saying, forget about it being woke, this is a thing that you have to see, is because they are so desperate not to be tarred with all of the normal appellations that are given people on the right. I think the reason that we're having these reactions to this, and remember, I'm going to be totally honest here, I have not seen the movie, so I can't comment on the quality of the movie from direct knowledge. What I can do is pay attention to what the filmmaker himself has said, what the talent have said, and what people that I trust have told me about the movie that they have seen. And I would say that my analysis of the story as written by Homer is that it is a warning against hubris It is a lesson that faithfulness is eventually rewarded, and it's also a warning that hospitality has limits, lest you be eaten out of your house and home. What Christopher Nolan appears to have done is cut out many of the elements that were illustrating Odysseus's hubris. You told me today, I was shocked to discover that they completely cut out the plot point of Odysseus yelling to the Cyclops that he, Odysseus, was the one who had done this thing, not nobody, as in the text. That was to illustrate his hubris. That was what caused a lot of his troubles there, was that Odysseus was prideful. Christopher Nolan has gone out and said that what a lot of the movie is about is that we should be kind to the foreigner and the stranger, when what was happening within Odysseus's house is that all of these people were taking advantage of him and his household and eating them out of their substance. That is all relevant information through the ages. That's why the story has survived. When you cut those elements out, you subvert the message of the story. It's the same thing that they did with Star Wars. It's the same thing they did with Indiana Jones. It's the same thing that they've done with every popular property that they want to co-opt and subvert to their message. It is overtly political. That is why we're having the reaction to this. It's not about being racist. It's not about being transphobic. It's because the themes of the story have been corrupted. You can do that. You're allowed to do that. You're an artist. This is your interpretation. But I stand by the fact that if you're going to do that, you call it Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey.
So we've got this now. Forbes is weighing in, Gary, and Forbes says, from Eric Kane, The Odyssey backlash is another ridiculous example of the culture wars placing politics above art. And again, I think this is because the media loves to be on the right side of the audience. And they're not catching on quickly enough that these numbers are inflated by the price of tickets, and it doesn't represent a ton of people going to see this. Like, we're barely above the number of butts and seats for Mandalorian Grogu. But the cost of the ticket is 50% higher than Mando and Grogu. Let me show this to you. It says, if you thought the ancient war between the Trojans and the Greeks was epic and bloody, you should see the culture war currently being waged over Christopher Nolan's new adaptation of the Odyssey. Goes on to talk about some blah, blah, blah. The first controversy surrounding the film focused on its armor. Then it says that controversy, which felt more consigned to wannabe history buffs looking for YouTube clicks, soon extended the film's long ships. Then it goes to talk about realism and authenticity. Then it goes on to talk about race swaps, gender swaps, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It says Helen of Troy starts yet another pointless war. Basically what this is saying is all the stuff, everything that people have been saying, hey, we don't want to do this anymore. We don't want to retcon, recast, reconfigure these stories. It's all a bunch of nonsense, and none of this matters. And I think it's coming from folks who they think that because of this movie, suddenly everything has shifted. And I don't believe that's true. That goes against everything, Gary, we've seen with Supergirl, everything that we've seen with Mandalorian Grogu, everything we've seen with so many films year after year after year. I don't think that suddenly this just changed. I think the answer is far more simple. And everybody right now is losing their minds, not paying attention to it.
Yeah, that entire article that you just showed is complete projection, because we're just trying to point out, how we want a good story. And, all of a sudden, the movie does a little bit of business in its first weekend, and then all these articles are bombarding everybody about how wrong half of the audience was, which is obnoxious.
It's a shame game, Gary. It's a mass shaming. Yeah,
exactly. Before the numbers are even in, and
it's the first time they've had a shot to do this. Every other time it goes kablooey in their faces. This time they jacked the ticket prices up by 50%, and now they got the headlines they want. They got the numbers they want to do this shame game.
Yeah, temporarily they do. I don't even think they know anything about math. But I mean,
they don't believe in real numbers.
Yeah. I mean, another ridiculous example of the culture wars. What was the name of the article?
Let's see. From Forbes, it's The Odyssey backlash is another ridiculous example of the culture wars placing politics above art, which is what the left does every time.
Above art. Yeah. Would you say it would be the wackos that are on YouTube calling this stuff out, or the people that are making this garbage?
Right. We call for the listen over and over, Gary. We say Go back to the mainstream middle, the sensible center where money is made. And over, the left says, no, we want to change everything. We want to invert it. They want to subvert your expectations. And then they get furious when the market doesn't go along with what they say. This time, they've managed to figure out a strategy. And kudos to them, by the way. They figured out how to get big numbers in the first weekend. We'll see how it plays out over the long run. Maybe every blockbuster needs to be an IMAX, actually, the whole thing is filmed for IMAX. Maybe this is a winning strat. I don't know. Andy, I'll give you the final word on it. You've seen the film along with me. I don't hate it. I don't love it. But I also think that, when you see the artist formerly known as Page, it pulls you out of the movie. It's ridiculous. Ben Shapiro describes that as a pebble in the sandal kind of thing. It's annoying, right? But it's not a big deal. I think it is a big deal. I think, Andy, when suddenly you've been watching the whole movie and all of a sudden in a Greek film, there's an Asian guy just shows up. There's an Asian guy. An Asian guy jumps out of the boat and swims to the sirens. You're like, well, how about that? There's an Asian guy here the whole time. I didn't know it. Now he's gone. I think all that stuff's just silly. And I don't think we should accept it. I think we should say, this is bizarre. This is just, it's obvious pandering and tokenism. Your thoughts, Andy?
It's funny that they don't complain the other way. It's like if they say if it doesn't matter, then why would it matter if you stuck to an authentic cast? I saw references being made to Mel Gibson's Apocalypto, where he took a completely authentic cast for a completely authentic Mayan story. And of course, that's Mel Gibson, and they don't like him anymore unless he's making the money somehow. This whole thing is, if they really believed what they say, then they wouldn't be looking for representation only when it comes into one sort of culture. I mean, we've got Anne Boleyn, we've got the other the Vikings that they did this with, but yet we had Wakanda, and there were no Irish in Wakanda. Doing the whole this with their beers, with their Guinness on their hands. So the hypocrisy is a little too much. And I think most people are aware of it. Again, Nolan can do this because he's Nolan, and people are going to see it because he's Nolan. But there's nothing memorable about this film. It's not going to be one of these things that I don't think that people are going to go back to over and over again. And when they think of Christopher Nolan, it's going to be up there with The Prestige and Inception, to something.
Yeah, it's nowhere close. Nowhere close. It's way, way too long. It's a 6.5 out of 10 from me. Andy, what would you give it if you gave it a score 0 out of 10?
I would give it a 5.5. If it were an hour shorter, I probably would have liked it more.
Yeah, same thing. I could have done without the first 2 hours of the film. Honestly, I think if you came in 2 hours late, you're going to see a pretty all right film. I think it's much better in the third act, which is an hour and 15 minutes, and that's a full-blown movie, so have at that, eh? Folks, this is the story, though. You need to understand the woke, not the left. I keep saying the left, and I'm going to correct myself. I've been wrong in doing that. The woke, not the left, because the classical liberals, we love those people. We got to have people on the liberal side and the conservative side to have a society. You got to have people who are pushing for change. You got to have people who are pushing for traditions, and then they battle it out, they duke it out, right? And then that way, some stuff gets changed and other stuff gets saved. That's good. That's how it's always worked throughout history. Okay, but the woke people, totally different thing. They don't believe in truth with a capital T. They don't believe in facts. They don't believe in objectivity. They believe in power. Those people, the wokies, they're celebrating this. They think they defeated everybody else out there. They're excited. They're ready to pitch this to Hollywood to say, go, 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 do more of this. And unfortunately, those on our side are not figuring this out. They better figure it out, because I think they're going to lose some of their audiences, as I believe in the wisdom of the mainstream. I believe that average people out there are going to look and say, I think our influencers are confused right now, and they're going to find somebody who's telling them the truth. Hopefully, folks, we're doing a good job of that. We'll keep at it. We love folks like Dave Rubin. We love folks like Ben Shapiro. But if I had to put my guess on who's going to win this one, looks like Matt Walsh has it right this time on this movie. One of the greatest things we get to do each and every day is speak out and reach out to folks who don't know how entertainment works. And frankly, we think entertainment matters so much. It's why we do what we do. and you can help us send this out to even more folks. Click that like button, share, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. And wouldn't you know it, folks, we're even on Patreon. It's www.patreon.com/WDW Pro. We've got to go, but until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.